strap yourselves in because I'm going to have one positive thing to say about that game through the entire video as the Timberwolves come back from the All-Star break, full week of rest, and play the Charlotte Hornets, who have a bottom 5 record in the NBA this year. But that's almost a bad thing against this Timberwolves team, as they are 5-8 against those teams this year now after tonight, as they drop this one, losing by 8 at home against the Charlotte Hornets. We have all these stinkers at home, it feels like, too, just to let down all the Minnesotans that much more. Let me talk about the only positive, because he was the only person who brought it right away and brought in all of its minutes. Loved his energy, his attitude, his effort. He made a lot of smart plays, shot the ball very well from 3, really the only one tonight. And that is Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who is part of the D'Angelo Russell trade. Mike Conley, the other part of that trade that the Wolves got, also had a fairly solid game. Wasn't great throughout, but had a strong second quarter where he showed up. But it was really Nickeil Alexander-Walker who was impressive because he was extremely locked in, playing super pressure defense, making a lot of hustle plays. Unfortunately, this was just a horrible environment to do that because the Insecurimes were genuinely miserable. They sucked so bad this game. It was touchy fouls at all times, both sides. No one was happy with the officiating. Then they would just blow absolutely blatant calls, missed a goaltending that they would end up teeing up Nickeil Alexander-Walker after missing it too. Then Dennis Smith Jr. dives at the knees of Kyle Anderson on a fast break, and that doesn't get called a foul. There was a lot of atrocious things from that crew of sucks, and they just are so bad. So early on in that game, there was a lot of foul calls on the Wolves, and that really helped the Hornets stay in that. And I really just did not want to see that Hornets team stick around early because I knew that would spell disaster. Because the Hornets do have a notorious Wolves killer, too, in Gordon Hayward, who, of course, he doubles up his scoring average of the season. Gets triple the amount of rebounds he normally does, doubles up assists almost. Someone that should be a rock for this team, and Kyle Anderson played a very poor game. He was extremely sloppy. One of those where he's not even really looking at the basket ever to shoot, too. And he would have 4 turnovers as well. Anthony Edwards, also with 4 turnovers, was just kind of an offensive mess tonight. Really was never composed and kind of hurt the flow of the offense a ton. He still had stretches of greatness because he's that good, and defensively he was actually very active at times and made a lot of big plays that kind of spurred the crowd. But his chaotic inconsistency tonight really just did not help the team as an all-tire. And one of the best metrics for how well the ball is moving for this Timberwolves team is the shot attempts that Jaden McDaniels gets. He was 3 of 3 in the first couple minutes, and then there would just be a massive stretch before he gets his next one. Ends with only 9 shot attempts, and that's a big sign of kind of the disjointed nature of what this game turned into. And the Wolves would have a ton of mishaps yet again tonight, a lot of missed layups, and just this brutal trend of this team of having an advantage and it usually turning into points for the other team. There's so many instances of someone getting a step on their defender or being in transition, making a big play, and then just giving it right back to the other team who actually capitalizes. And those are the big differences in the game. And points off turnovers, there you go. It's a pretty big implication there. That was just so pathetic. The Timberwolves have a really difficult stretch of games, basically the rest of the season. There's only 20 games left. It might be hard for them to even make the play-in, depending on how many teams are actually going for it. Not looking good this year whatsoever, even with Karl Anthony Towns' return somewhat on the horizon, but that probably won't add to the maturity of this team, which has been lacking all year long. Ugh.